The apology left her mouth automatically, the way it always did. "I'm so sorry for the wait," Emily said, forcing a gentle smile as she stood at the edge of the table. "The kitchen's a little backed up tonight." She had said those exact words dozens of times that evening, and hundreds of times before that. Most people nodded. Some sighed. A few rolled their eyes. Emily was used to it. What she wasn't used to was what happened next. The diner sat just off a two-lane highway in a small Ohio town, the kind of place where truckers stopped at dawn and families gathered after Friday night football games. The lights were bright but tired, buzzing softly above red vinyl booths that had seen decades of spilled coffee and late-night conversations. Emily had been on her feet for nearly 9 hours. Her sneakers were worn thin at the soles, and the back of her uniform apron was smudged with coffee stains she hadn't noticed until it was too late. She was 26, with her brown hair pulled into a loose ponytail and dark circles under her eyes that no amount of concealer could fully hide. Tonight had been especially hard. Her babysitter had cancelled at the last minute, forcing Emily to beg her neighbor to watch her 6-year-old son, Noah. She'd come into work already tense, already worried about the money she still didn't have, rent due in 4 days, a past-due electric bill folded in her purse, and a school field trip permission slip she hadn't signed because she didn't know how she'd pay for it. Then the dinner rush hit. Table after table. Orders stacked up. A cook called in sick. The manager snapped at everyone. And now, standing in front of booth 12, Emily braced herself for another frustrated response. Booth 12 held 4 people, 2 older couples, maybe in their late 60s or early 70s. They looked comfortable, not rushed. One man wore a faded Navy veteran cap. One woman had neatly curled gray hair and hands folded calmly on the table. Emily apologized again, habitually, her voice soft. "Your food should be out soon." She waited for the sigh. The complaint. The sharp comment. Instead, the woman closest to her smiled. "Oh honey," she said gently, "you don't need to apologize." Emily blinked, unsure she'd heard correctly. The man in the navy cap chuckled. "We can see you running all over this place. Looks like you're doing the work of 3 people." Emily let out a small, nervous laugh. "It's just one of those nights." The woman reached for her water glass, then paused. "You've been on your feet all evening, haven't you?" Emily nodded before she could stop herself. "Sit for a second," the woman said. Emily froze. "I'm sorry." "Just for a moment," the woman repeated. "You can stand back up when the food comes." Emily glanced around the diner, instinctively looking for her manager. Sitting with customers wasn't allowed. But something about the way the woman spoke, so calm, so sincere, made Emily hesitate. "It's okay," the man said. "We're not in a hurry." Emily swallowed. Her legs ached. Her lower back throbbed. She lowered herself slowly onto the edge of the booth, perching awkwardly, ready to jump up at the first sign of trouble. For a few seconds, no one spoke. Then the woman asked, "What's your name?" "Emily." "Well, Emily," she said warmly, "I'm Ruth." Introductions followed. Ruth and her husband, Frank. Across from them sat Linda and George, longtime friends. They came to the diner every Thursday evening, they explained. Same booth. Same time. A tradition that had survived retirements, health scares, and the loss of loved ones. "You look exhausted," Linda said kindly. "Rough day?" Emily hesitated. She wasn't supposed to share personal details. But something in her chest felt tight, like a dam ready to crack. "Just life," she said carefully. "Single mom. Busy shift." Ruth's expression softened instantly. "You have children?" "One," Emily said. "My son. He's 6. Frank nodded slowly. "That's a tough age." My daughter was 6 when her mother passed. I remember how hard it was. Emily hadn't expected that. Her throat tightened. Before she could respond, plates clattered in the distance. The food was ready. Emily jumped up quickly. I'm sorry, I should go, Ruth said with a smile. We'll be right here. Emily served their meals, refilled their drinks, and moved on to the next table. But something about booth 12 stayed with her. The kindness. The way they'd looked at her, not as a server, not as someone in the way, but as a person. An hour later, the rush finally slowed. Emily wiped down counters, her body heavy with fatigue. When she returned to booth 12 with the check, Ruth held up a hand. Before you go, Ruth said, can I ask you something? Emily nodded. Are you happy? Ruth asked. The question caught Emily off guard. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. The honest answer rose up before she could stop it. I'm trying to be, she said quietly. Ruth reached across the table and gently touched Emily's hand. That's enough sometimes. Emily handed them the check and walked away, feeling a strange mix of warmth and sadness. She told herself not to expect anything. People were kind sometimes. That didn't change the bills waiting at home. When the group finally stood to leave, Emily thanked them and wished them a good night. You too, Emily, George said. And thank you, for everything. After they left, Emily went to clear the booth. She reached for the check presenter, and stopped. Inside wasn't just a receipt. There was a folded stack of bills. Her heart skipped. She counted once. Then again. $200. Emily's breath caught. That was more than her entire night's tips combined. Her hands trembled as she unfolded a small handwritten note tucked beneath the cash. Emily. We saw how hard you were working tonight. We remember what it's like to struggle, and we also know how much a small kindness can matter. This isn't charity. It's appreciation. Please take care of yourself, and your son. Booth 12. Emily stood frozen as the diner noise faded around her. Her eyes burned. She pressed a hand to her mouth, tears spilling before she could stop them. That money meant groceries without counting every dollar. It meant the electric bill paid. It meant Noah could go on his field trip without her pretending she'd forgot the form. Her manager noticed her standing there and frowned. You okay? Emily nodded quickly, wiping her cheeks. Yes. Just, yes. That night, she drove home with the windows down, the cool air brushing her face. When she walked into her small apartment, Noah was asleep on the couch, a cartoon paused on the TV. She covered him with a blanket and sat beside him, holding the note in her hand. For the first time in weeks, she felt like she could breathe. A month later, Emily spotted booth 12 again. Same faces. Same smiles. This time, when she approached, she didn't apologize for the delay. Instead, she smiled and said, I'm really glad you're here. Ruth smiled back. So are we. Sometimes, kindness arrives disguised as patience. As listening. As seeing someone when the world keeps rushing past them. Emily never forgot that night, not because of the money, but because of the moment she realized she wasn't invisible. And maybe, just maybe, neither are you. If this story moved you, please like the video and subscribe to Dispersed World. You never know whose life might change because you stayed, watched, and believed in kindness.